2, 1.
Gentlemen, pains me to inform you, but tragically, all your families have just died. Now, such a statement, as terrible, painful as it is to hear, regrettably happens to all of us. Now, what's the thing to do after we hear it? Honor the dead. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm here to tell you about today is a new process to honor our dead called alkaline hydrolysis. Let me begin, though, by explaining sort of the methods currently used for body disposal. We have burial, cremation, and the new method, alkaline hydrolysis. Now, what's wrong about funerals? They're staggering in cost. The National Funeral Directors Association of America stated in 2012 the average funeral cost between $700 and $8,500. Now, that is a lot to put your dead in the ground and rot away. Cremation, much cheaper, is a lot more environmentally destructive. Alkaline hydrolysis, the most promising method of the body disposal in the future, still has a long road before availability matches cremation and burial in the United States. But with contemplative understanding of the stigma behind it and a spiritual consolidation, it must in short time be made available to every single American seeking it. I'm not here to tarnish personal beliefs in how we honor our dead. What I am here to do today is to inform you of a new way to dispose of them. Funeral homes are a nasty business. I'm not talking about all the chemicals that get put in us before we go under. I'm talking about the way a funeral home parlor will use sympathy, your current shock of mind in hearing your loved one's dead, and then using that to sell you all the frolicky things that nobody needs to remember and honor the dead. Now, it's obvious that cemeteries destroy a lot of arable land that could be used for agriculture. And also the carcinogenic chemicals from the formaldehyde that goes into embalming fluid, that seeps into the groundwater and destroys a lot of other things. Before you see some of the statistics that go into just one burial, or 1 year's worth of burial. Now, in the article, Environmental Impact of Different Funeral Technologies, Kaiser and Koch illustrate burial impact, where the average grave is 7 by 5 feet in diameter. Think of a cemetery where there's thousands of those. Besides that, though, the researchers measured in their article the abiotic depletion, acidification, ozone layer depletion, and the aqua toxicity brought on by burial, cremation, alkaline hydrolysis, and cryomation. The traditional methods exceed the other two by far. Cremations, on the other hand, pollute air more immediately than even a burial does. Obviously, because you're getting put in a furnace, and then you're being superheated for 3 hours until you're nothing but dust. There's a huge cloud of CO2 that just goes up into the environment, washes down on us, destroys our ozone, which we want. Public official John Riedel, in his report on mercury emissions from cremation, says 2 to 4 grams of mercury are released in the air per cremation. Now, some of his other statistics, 32% of Americans choose cremation. 2.1 Americans die every year. Now imagine multiplying that, and you get 20,160,000 grams of mercury released into the air. I dare any of you to eat just 1 gram of mercury. And then more than 99% of that mercury is in the air, while the rest seeps into the ground, which is unfortunate because mercury is very, very toxic. And also, what Mr. Riedel tells us is that cremations are expected to go from 32% to 56% by 2025 of all body disposal in the U.S. Now it's time for resomation, or alkaline hydrolysis, to get involved. On the alkaline hydrolysis, on the other hand, you get 0 CO2 emissions, 0 chemicals seeping away, 0 land usage. Cost alone, it's under $1,000, which rivals sort of cremation, but is way under burial cost. And you can still collect your bone fragments and put them in an urn. Let me explain alkaline hydrolysis. You're put in a silk sack, you're put in this machine, where the machine calculates your weight and how much lye should be put in with you, potassium lye. You're superheated to about 1600 degrees Fahrenheit, Pounds of pressure build up, you dissolve into a gel. It's very disgusting and morbid, I know, but we must look at it not as a morbid process that tarnishes our loved one's reputation, but of an ecologically friendly way of disposing of them. Once stigmatism is gone behind how this process works, people will see the net benefits that alkaline hydrolysis provides. To address stigmatism, it is necessary to go to the history of cremation. Author Prothero, in his book Purified by Fire, A History of Cremation in America, details the evolution of cremation. 100 years ago, it was outlandish to burn your dead. It was just a horrible way. They couldn't think of anything being burned except witches. But until the 60s, which is how that sort of society viewed cremation, but then in the 60s, the hippies had this new thought. Why are we honoring a dead body and not the memory of the person? And from the 60s, which was under 5% of cremations were under body disposal, after the 60s, it was 32%, and it's slowly growing. Now the stigmatism behind alkaline hydrolysis shared these same basic features of the cremation in the past. It's utterly incomprehensible to think of just dissolving your loved one into a gel, flushing it down the drain. It's unheard of. But the hippies wanted to celebrate the memory of the loved one, and so do we. Hansen, in his testimony to Texas state legislation, offers feedback to alkaline hydrolysis promise. Already there are 7 states that have it legalized. The Mayo Clinic in Minnesota is the first place in 2003 to offer it. And there are already 19 other states currently undergoing legislation for it. Now we want that to go up to 50. Frightening realities of global warming become more passing. Any alternative should be sought for complete disposal of the dead. And the old adage, dead is dead, should become more and more clear. In conclusion, the growing destruction of our planet can be curbed. We just have to look for ways to curb it in the funeral industry. Understanding the negatives to traditional methods should in themselves persuade people to look for alternatives. And like the 60s, we should have a soul searching and address what really matters to the families that have lost somebody. Now I've told you about all this, so I'm hoping that alkaline hydrolysis, the most promising method of body disposal in the future, still has a long road before it will become as available as cremation and burial. But I'm hoping with contemplative understanding of the stigma behind it and with spiritual consolidation, it must in short time be made available to every single person seeking it. Thank you.
Alkaline hydrolysis! Alkaline hydrolysis! Alkaline hydrolysis!